Oh, I don't know. This picture of us,
Oh my God.
God, and I think it might have been like at an Out 100 party, maybe.
Uh,
And and we had known each other. We've known each other again on and off for so many years. But you know, do you, when you look at pictures of yourself from a period of time, does it bring you back to that period, or does it blend together? It's just all your life.
no, it brings me back to that period. I remember when that photo was taken because it was after the circuit film, and it was probably
Right.
like 6 months or a year after we had stopped filming. So I was, super blonde, super short hair blonde in the circuit film. And then I was like, let me get out of that and
Right.
let me grow out my hair and just, you know, not be that person anymore. And then just, kind of explore that other side of me.
Yep,
Yeah.
and there you are in circuit. Let's talk about our friend Dirk Schaefer, who we lost, and we both loved him very much. And in so many ways, how he lived and how he died was a cautionary tale of what could have happened to any of us. So many people that you and I knew in the day didn't make it.
Yeah. And it was either, first off, there was the HIV AIDS thing.
Right.
Uh,
Which you've been very open about for years.
yes. And that killed, well, I'm just talking about losing people. And that,
Oh, yeah, right.
was the first sweep of losing so many of us. And then after that, it was the drugs,
Right.
and people would be like, yeah, in the 90s, you could be HIV positive, but if you're doing a lot of drugs, you're out.
Right.
So that drugs have a lot to do with it. So yeah, it is a cautionary tale. Absolutely.
And sobriety. And you've done again sobriety and drug awareness stuff like this ad here. um sober since, is it 97?
Yes.
That is,
25 years plus. Yeah.
wow. And what caused you to get sober?
I had about years of being sober before I got sober, but it was, I guess because when I found out I had HIV, got sober by myself and got real healthy. But then, life just, coming my way and dealing with the stigma and the lack of work and people knowing and then I just started using again. So it just got to a point where it's just too much. I was doing too much.
Hmm.
I really, really was. I didn't know anybody, in that world who didn't, use drugs. So when I wanted to stop and go, okay, this is enough, and all of a sudden you look around, I'm like, I don't know anybody who doesn't do drugs. I
Do you
don't know.
know,
They're
it's
gonna they're
it's
handing me things left and right still. I'm
right. A mutual friend of ours, and I'm not going to mention names, but he had come out to LA, and I brought him to, what was the place we used to go after hours on Santa Monica Boulevard?
not rage.
No, no,
I
what?
Despite.
Yes, Spike. Thank you. Thank you. So Spike, so I brought him there like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, and I wasn't doing anything. And he had said to me, "Do you know where I can get anything?" And I said, "No, of course I'm bringing him to Spike," which
Yeah,
was an after hours club. So there was no alcohol. So there was everything else.
yeah,
So we walked across the dance floor. This is his first time in the club. And he said to me, no, I turned to him and said, I don't know anyone. Because it wasn't part of my world. So I said, I
yeah,
can't get anything. And he turned to me and said, on our walk across the dance floor, I was offered it by 4 people.
yeah,
And I said, how did I miss it? But when you're part of that world,
yeah.
it is part of the culture.
Yeah, it's nightclub culture, first off, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And then it just accelerates when you're more successful in the nightclub industry. You just,
Yeah.
attract more people, you attract more work, and then you attract more drugs. That's,
And also, if you're part of that culture, you can look at somebody and see it,
oh,
whereas
yeah.
I might not.
Oh, yeah. They all know each other,
Yeah.
They
And
all,
there is a look.
yeah, there's definitely a look. a partying look. Yeah.
um, you know, we have a lot to talk about, and you've always been so honest. And I was going back looking at some interviews, mostly in print media. I don't know if a lot of this stuff you've talked about like on videos. So I mean, I'm glad that we have this opportunity to do it, but we have to mention the big reason we're doing this now, and we didn't do this 3 years ago, is you've got a single out called Rainbow. And you've done, you know, people think, oh, there was Boom Boom, there was Tattoo It, there was My House, but there wasn't a really big gap. You've always done music. It may not have been at a level that everyone saw it, but I always was aware of music coming out.
Yeah, like every 4 or 5 years, I tried to do a song. But it's like some of the people that I were with, I wrote songs that have never been published because the ways of the market at the time.
Sure. Of course.
So they don't want that kind of thing. And I like a lot of pop music. Rainbow's very poppy. It's very commercial. It's very fun. It's very gay. It's about gay pride. It's fun. It's joyful. It's friends forever, the whole feeling of it. So I could see if I wrote that 5 years ago, they would probably, my people would have said, well, it's too
Right.
it's too gay, or
Right.
it's too happy, you know what I mean? Like, so
Right.
the music industry goes through these kind of like underground feels, housey feels, hip hop feels.
Oh, sure.
And I just try to do what I do. And I just, every 5 years is a good kind of time for me to put something out. I don't really, Rainbow was kind of like an idea that I just had out of the blue that I always wanted to write. So it just kind of came to me. And I do write all the time, whether I, put it out or not. But there's also like the part of me where I'm glad this song came out and I could just kind of be who I am and be commercial and fun side of me. But there's another side of me that just likes to be like, a guy and go camping and don't do interviews and just be some guy. I go to different
Oh,
conventions
yeah.
and people look at me like they don't know who I am.
Right.
Like,
Right. You can be a civilian.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's like, great. I'm like, oh my God, I'm enjoying this so much. You know what I mean? Like, no one has no idea who I am. I'm just some guy. I'm like, perfect.
Yeah. But then there's the other performer gay side. And I'm just going to show people a little clip of Rainbow. This was a teaser. And I loved this because it just gave people just a hint of it. So just take a look. And I love that because it gave you the hint that it is a dance song and it's fun. It's clearly you. It's clearly your body and your ass and your face and your voice.
Yeah.
It's a Paul Lekakis song.
Yeah. Like even when I was recording it and, because sometimes the producers will do some effects on your voice. And when I went for the last listen and I was like, no, I has to be the way I sound. Like I want this record to sound like my voice. Like I don't want to put too much stuff on it.
Right.
I know it sounds, rocky. I always had a pop rock feel, kind of edgy, part of my voice. And I'm like, this is the way my voice is. Like, don't mess with it too much. Like,
right. Either you want it or you don't.
yeah, I'm like, yeah, like, but some songs lend it, that kind of style. Like I've had other songs where they put a lot more effects on my vocals because that's the way that song was. But I was just like, no, I want to be able to sing this and people be like, that's exactly how it sounds. He sounds exactly how it sounds.
I'm looking. We have a comment from somebody, and I think it's really interesting. Paul Lekakis was a click model manager in New York City when I worked there in the '80s. He was so sweet. Great to see you, Paul, with Billy Peace, and it's John
Oh,
McDonald.
oh, John. I haven't seen John in ages. Hi,
You
John.
know, and there are I have some of those early model. I mean, it's
Hmm.
so funny to see these pictures because again, it's even before I knew you. Um,
That
you
was a
know the
long time ago. We're talking like 85, 86.
Well, there's your Armani photo, and this is already you had been modeling for 2 or 3 years before
Yeah,
you
I
got to
went
Armani.
to Italy. That says 86,
87, yep.
80. So that was in 86, first year,
Oh,
the
okay.
first year that Emporio Armani launched. And that was in
Oh,
Milan, Italy
really?
that I did. Yeah.
And Milan was really important for you
So
in so many ways because you were part of the model scene, but it's also where you got into the music scene.
yeah, I was lucky that I got to stay there. My mother worked in the airlines at the time. So
Oh,
when I was Click Models, John said, "Oh, this is a good idea that you go there and get some experience and get some photographs." And I was like, "Okay."
and there you
Um,
are again.
and I went there, but I only had to pay 10% of the ticket of the full
Right,
fare
1990, of course.
because my mother was in the airline for KLM. So I would pay like $100 to go to Italy round trip.
Oh,
And I'd have to
God.
fly, standby. But so when I
Right.
was there for like a couple months, and they would give me some pushback, the agency because there was like 100 miles there, like,
Hmm.
and I'd be like, oh, I'm just gonna go home and back to New York. I'll come back in a couple months, and they were like, what do you mean you're leaving? You know what I mean? I'm like, well, are you going to make me work, or am I going to sit around and hang out in the discos all weekend? Which got me noticed. That's how
Yeah,
I got
sure.
noticed for Boom Boom. So
And you were a dancer before all of this anyway. You studied in New York and
yeah,
you really it was your ticket out of Westchester. Was it Westchester County? Is that where you were? Okay.
Westchester. I was a dancer first because what I wanted to do. I almost went to a state school instead of going down to New York and taking classes. But that dancing I carried to Milan, and I was taking dance classes in Milan too.
Oh,
So
really?
it's either the dance class in Milan or going out to the nightclubs and getting my dance on.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's how I got noticed dancing with everyone on the dance floor. It was like a crazy time back then. And that's how I met the producers for Boom Boom.
And you recorded it in his house?
Well, in his basement, somebody's basement studio. I'm not sure if it was his, but there were 5 writers on that song, and they were all Italian guys. And I picked a song out of a cassette tape that had 7 or 8 songs on it. So I picked the Boom Boom one. I said, this is the one that I like. And then we did some vocals in that studio. And then we went to a bigger studio. And I remember when we went to the bigger studio, when it was like okayed by the record company, I
Mm-hmm.
kind of like had a hard time in the big studio because I was just like, it didn't sound the same as the basement. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
I kind of
Yeah.
like the whole basement feel. So sometimes, even where I found out, even really, really famous singers will say the same thing. There's something about the magic of the basement studio that the big
Sure.
studios don't have.
And how quickly did it take off?
Actually, it
Because
didn't.
Italian disco was a big thing in the
Yeah,
80s.
actually, it didn't. I did. One of the reasons why I got the record deal is I had to stay and live in Italy for 6 months to promote the record. That was
Oh.
mandatory for me. So I had to stay there by myself. I had a girlfriend come and be my roommate for a while there. And I did some promotion, didn't really go anywhere. And then I went back to the States. And about 6 months later, it started getting really popular in Florida, like spring break.
Oh,
And
wow.
from there, then I started getting a lot of calls from there to perform.
But it was around the world. Wasn't it really big in like Asia as well?
Yes, it was number one in Japan. It was number one in Australia. and then it went to like, you know, wherever, you know, Canada, New Zealand. They licensed it all over the world to a lot of different record companies, which was a little confusing, you know,
Yeah,
for
I
me.
bet.
And yeah, it was a lot of work in the beginning, and that's when I was also like, okay, I've got this song, and then I had to deal with the business of the record business and see, you know, what mistakes people made, you know, and things that I didn't like, you know, and I was
Hmm.
just like, oh, how am I going to make this work for me? So I just performed a lot and I toured all over the United States. And I look at that Bob Darren's. There used to be a book called Bob Darren's, and it was all about the gay bars for the United States. It's the only way you know
Right,
where all the
sure.
gay bars were.
Because we
So
didn't
we
have
used to
the
look through
internet
that
then.
book. No, we used to mail them all my pictures and, you know, get out there. So I went to a lot. I toured to a lot of gay bars and a lot of places that no one ever went to before. No
Yeah,
singers anyway. Like,
well, no, that's true. And it's you said a really interesting thing in one of the interviews is that again, you are also and are very handsome, and you said I kind of at a certain point went from being a singer who showed some skin to basically being a stripper who sang a little.
yeah, because what happens now, it's just like what's happening now with the DJs, you know, in the gay
Yeah.
clubs. They're all like models, muscle models. And
And
even
when
the
did that
DJ,
happen? Yeah.
well, it happens the same thing with the singers. Like I was a singer, then all of a sudden they started hiring all the go-go boys, and then
Right.
they realized, oh, we don't have to hire the singers; we can hire the go-go boys and get the same bang for our buck, if you will.
Right.
So
Sure.
then I saw the DJs, all the muscle DJs coming in there, and then I started seeing the DJs react and go, wait a minute, I don't work out. Like,
Right.
isn't it about the music? I'm like, yeah, isn't it about the music? But that's not how
But it
the business
stopped
works,
being
you
about the
know?
music.
Uh,
Yeah. There was
well,
a there
yeah.
was
And
a
then,
there was a DJ that I worked with in Boston, and I will never forget because I was a stand up, and again, I was like, they're like, oh, you could work out more, you could do your hair, you could wear the clothes. They said, but what does that have to do with being funny? Well,
yeah.
there was a DJ who's become very popular. Again, not going to name anyone. That he was in a booth over the dance floor, and in the middle of a Saturday night, while the dance floor is filled, took his shirt off and went onto the dance floor, and suddenly was the most popular DJ in Boston. I said, but what does that have to do with being a DJ? But that's where life was going.
Well, yeah, it was the entertainment business. And, you know, there's only one or two slots, you know. So, you know, it's the same thing of, you know, like sometimes a lot of times I was the only guy with a string of these disco divas that I would sing with, which was
Oh,
great. I was like, I'm the guy. And then like there was a couple other guys. And then it was just kind of like then them other guys would get it. And then the guys would be all like competitive and I'd be like, what's going on? But that's just the way it is. It's a competitive business and it's ever changing and there's different fads, I guess.
yeah, but you have survived. We were putting to because I was looking at all the there were so many videos of you singing Boom. And so I had picked two because one is a very early clip and one is a more recent clip. And what's amazing is not only do you sound better, well, the first one is lip sync, but you sound better now, but the audience is even bigger now. So I just want to show this clip to show people then and now and how you're actually better now. Okay, look at the audience. Turn around. Show the. I mean, this is extraordinary.
That was great. That tour in Australia in 2016 was so great, you know, because I never got to go there. So, and then everybody, I would ask the, the crew, I'm like, well, what's the crowd like? And they were like, oh my God, everybody in this crowd really, really, really wants to be here. Like,
Look, I mean,
the,
they are crazy for you.
and the experience and it was great for me too, because as much as I've toured the United States and got to give that connection to the camaraderie between the song with the audience, as a singer I got to give it to them, but I
Mhm.
never got to give it to Australia. So it was just kind of like this 30 years building up to that crowd, and that crowd was just amazing.
Yeah, and they're like arenas. I mean, these are huge venues. This isn't like some little gay dance club.
Oh no, this was a full-on tour of Australia. There was like 11 cities, 13 shows. Um, it was big.
And you and I, we come out of the 80s, so we know a lot of these people who you tour with, and they package you together. And I talk to people like Belinda Carlisle and Cyndi Lauper and all of them, and what makes them happy is actually getting to spend time with each other. And like, we don't have to carry the show. We go out, do like 5 hits, and then we're done.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great to see all these other artists that I had that, I admired, and then I never got to see either for 30 years. And I got to see them and I was like, oh my God, oh my God. My friends that are not here anymore, I'm like, oh my God, they would die right now that I'm backstage listening to,
Or with a Cyndi Lauper, like here.
Mhm. That was
You
in
know,
Gay Pride, I think, in LA.
It was because I believe I hosted that night. So, again, we know where the bodies are buried.
Yeah.
And I found this clip, and this is old. I wish I were in L.A. because I've got footage of you. You did a show. Oh God, in West Hollywood, the Bellage Hotel. I
Oh
think
yeah.
you did a cabaret show. I think you also did it in Palm Springs, maybe.
I don't know if I did it in Palm Springs. No,
But
probably.
anyway, a lot of people, they go on to like these little local shows, and somebody says, "Oh, sing a few lines," and like nobody will do it. Here's just a clip just to show that Paul actually, it's not produced. He can carry a tune. But notice the hands. The hands are my favorite part of this whole clip.
It goes boom, boom, boom. Let's go back to my room so we can do it all night and you can make me feel right. Oh.
The hands are my favorite. I know she asked you but again, there's no like, oh, I'm not warmed up, whatever.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, I'll sing the song. What's it to you?
yeah, exactly.
Um, You've been really honest in the past about when you became HIV positive, that you weren't always very responsible, that you had enormous guilt through this whole situation of really going public with it. And that if you didn't, what would have happened to you was that it was eating you up inside. How important was being honest with the public?
For me, it was because it's to be, so many people would hit on me, and I'm not, people want different things from people. So if they want to be around you, if they want sex from you, they want some sort of sexual situations, whatever they want it from you, if that's what they want,
Mm-hmm.
and I got a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
So it just got to be where people would get mad at me if I didn't sleep with them, especially in the business. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
so it's like say I insulted them. It's like
Mm.
meanwhile, I was like, I have HIV and I don't want to sleep with you. I don't want to do that thing you want to do with me, and you're like forcing me to do it, like, so I'm like, no, 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 I got to get it out there. And then some other people, you just meet people like shady people. I'm like, look, or they talk, and everyone kind of knew anyway, and it was just kind of like, I just needed to get it out there because it was part of my recovery. And I was like, I want to live with it when it's out there so people know what I'm going through, and people can make their own choices if they want to
Hmm.
be or not. And I've just learned a lot over the years of like, you know, it's something when you have HIV, it can separate you, people.
Uh-huh.
It can bring you together, and it can also separate you and bring you together for the wrong reasons.
True.
So it's just another thing. And people used to kind of like some people I dated too are like, oh, well, you have HIV, so this is like a thing I have to deal with. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. You mean like you being a flirt, or you being a moron, or like all this stuff. And I was like, wait. I've had a lot of situations over the last, I've learned a lot. So it's just kind of better to kind
Hmm.
of like put it on the table. And now it's completely different today than it was back then. But there are still people I meet that are just like 100% clueless about what it means for a person. They just don't know.
And you also did a
You know?
short film about it with our mutual friend Dan Renzi, and it
Yes.
was about that situation. And you again, you said something. So, in it's a short film about a positive guy and a negative guy discussing after the fact. Oh,
Yeah.
maybe we should have been safer. And
Yeah.
you wrote it and you produced it and you said, I actually could have played either role, but I
Yeah.
chose to play the positive role because that's the one that you really felt stronger about and identified with.
Yeah, I wrote that script for Outfest. It was an Outfest, and it was my first directing gig. And it was just what was going on back then is all these people are, having some sort of sexual situation, even if it's not full out. And then they ask later, and then they get somehow offended
Yeah, right.
by what? It's even like today when people get STIs, they get offended that they get it or someone gave it. I'm like, you're a man that's having sex and you have to take care of your sexual health. Did you not know that?
And why are you looking to somebody else to protect you? Why
Yes,
aren't you
yes,
protecting
yes,
yourself and taking
yes,
responsibility? And that was one of the things that you said in one of the interviews. You like, I'm taking responsibility for who I am
yeah,
and where I am in my life.
yeah. And then I'd actually meet people too, and not only they don't want to think about that. They don't want to think
Really?
about taking responsibility for their sexual health.
Mm.
It's too much for them. It's too complicated. And I'm like, well, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. Just like if you do it, you have to go to the doctors and do it because it doesn't matter if you full out do it. You don't have to full out and do it, and you can still walk in there and get two STD, sexually transmitted infections. And you're like, wait a minute, I didn't do anything. I'm like, well, you did something.
Yeah, right.
I made out with 4 people. Like one guy that said they got monkeypox. Oh, I didn't do anything, but I made out with 4 people. It's like,
Right. Yeah, and you've been very open about that you're also undetectable, that you do take care of yourself. And which, I knew about, but I didn't know you talked about, that you went through a period where it was really hard, that you were like living in your car, that you had escorted, that you did what you needed to do to survive.
yeah, and I think a lot of people are doing that now. It's they call it like survival sex now. Uh, how many people do you know that have an OnlyFans account,
Right.
which
A
is
lot.
just the way it is? It's just the way it is. So back then, it was just the way it is. I could date 100 guys, or pay a few bills by dating 100 guys.
Or paying a few bills with one guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, there was a time when that's was what I was comfortable with doing, and it's what I had to do. And then now that there's more, there's a lot more agencies now for people who have HIV and AIDS,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
people get better. There's more therapy. There's more, medical stuff available. There's more housing, especially
And
here.
awareness.
awareness, especially here in Southern California with the entertainment community. There's a lot more housing involved, and it's a long way. But 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it wasn't like that.
And it's so interesting to me. And again, you and I grew up in a certain era around certain people. And, it was so interesting to me. Like everyone wanted to sleep with the porn star, but if they found out like they were escorting, they'd look down on them. And I'm like, a minute ago, you wanted to sleep with that person. That person was your ideal. And meanwhile, I had certainly slept with people who got me a nice dinner or brought me on a trip.
Yeah.
And I don't know, is that any different?
Well, yeah, I remember one guy telling me, "Oh, I was really enamored with this kid. I spent $2,000 on him. We went away for the weekend, and he didn't give me anything. He didn't give me any, like a piece of ass or something." I'm like, "What? You spent $2,000 on someone that you didn't get laid?" I'm like, "That's just stupid." You know what I mean? Like, or just it is what it is, and then go on to the next weekend. But I'm like, if you want to get laid, just go out and get laid. You can get laid.
It's not a hard thing.
But they don't think about it that way, like you say. Like some people, they don't. Oh, I wouldn't do that. I'm like, you just paid $2,000 for nothing, and you're pissed.
Exactly.
You would pay $200 to get laid. I'm like, it doesn't make sense. You're so upset about that $2,000. Years later.
It's funny because you've said that you've acted aside from circuit, you've done other things, and you're like, if I get asked one more time to play the aging stripper or the escort with a heart of gold or whatever.
Well, that was the thing too, where like I was bigger back then because I was working out more and getting those films and the Chippendale movie and the circuit film and a couple other TV shows where I played a stripper and
here's the Chippendale movie. There you
are. And I was big back then because that was like I think right after circuit. But then I was like, I had to I stopped working out that much. I didn't want to spend all my time in the gym, and because I've done it for 20 years plus,
right?
I was just like, I'm going to be the football player or the gay stripper. Like, that's it. That's all I'm going to, it's a casting. You go on film. I look like a fucking football player or a stripper. That's it. That's what I look like. They're not going to see anything else, you know? So I was just like, well, I don't want to look like that when I'm in my 60s too. I said, coming up, I was like, I want to be able to
age gracefully.
Yeah, I want to be able
to. We talked about that.
So, like I said, about looking towards those, movie stars and going, what do I want to look like when I'm 60?
Right.
Do I want to be? Can Arnold Schwarzenegger walk up Running Cannon right now? I don't know. Maybe slowly. I don't know. I just said for me, I don't want to be that big.
Was it everything people think when you look like that, when you look like this, when you look like this, this guy, is he happy with how he looks? Is it bringing him we want to at least think that you enjoyed it?
I liked, there's a lot of muscle difference between those photos.
Yeah, there are. Oh, yeah.
I was big. I enjoyed being big. I enjoyed, being muscular. And I was actually really thin right there.
Here, this one?
Oh, yeah, I was really thin.
You're just defined. You're very defined.
What happened is I have a really big, broad shoulders. So whenever I pose different, that's why I was always liked modeling because I can look differently in 10 minutes, with a different shirt and my hair parted a different way. Look at pose, you'd be like, oh my God, he looks like he's 250 pounds of muscle. It's like,
but no. This is a young, skinny guy right here.
Yeah. So I think I was happier, I think, where I am now, like in between the skinny and in between the too muscular. Like just being who I am, but lightly muscular. That's where I'm the most happiest, I think.
And as we said, it is a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. The gym's a lot of work. So yeah, I don't, oh my God, hours I spent at the gym in my 20s and 30s. hours. And
Yeah.
I enjoyed myself back then, but it just got to a point. It was like, how many people can I sleep with? What am I
Well,
doing?
this guy could sleep with a lot of guys.
Well, it's like, and then you do, and it just gets boring. I'm like, I can't keep this up. Like, and then all my boyfriends, at the time, like when I would be dating people and I didn't keep it up, they would be like, oh, you're getting a little thick around the waist, or, oh, I can't see your six pack. And I'm be like, is this the way it's going to be
Is
pressured?
that why you're dating me, for the six pack?
No, I'm like, I am not having some watcher, I'm like, no, that's not who I am, because it's not who I am. It's part of who I am, but it's not who I am. Totally. I'm not that person that people would, say, oh, he looks like that. That's who he is. I'm like, no, that's part of who I am. It's not totally who I am.
Did acting help you come to sort of that realization that there was more to you than just the physical?
Yeah, totally. Because it has nothing to do with physical acting.
Right.
It's just
I saw you with again, we have so many mutual friends, with Scott Cunningham. I saw you in Provincetown, but I know you did Two Boys in a Bed in San Francisco. There you are. And I was so interested to see you on stage, because David Drake had said to me, you've got to see him on stage. He really has that magnetism, and you really do.
Well, thank you. I did that in Fire Island first, and then we took it to San Francisco, and I learned a lot. It was the biggest acting role that I've ever gotten, so I can memorize a two-person script where I was basically have to play. You know what I mean? So it was a great challenge, and I learned a lot from it. And I just, that was another thing where it's like, the whole trap of, or maybe it's just stepping stones. Like, this is what you got to do when you're a gay guy. You gotta show your ass on stage. You gotta, you gotta show your body. It's a little bit more like expected of you. The audience is already there for it. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like, but it was a really great acting experience. So and I realized in acting, once I'm cast, that's just like a superficial thing. It's just like when I go write a song or do sing. Okay, the superficial stuff's out. When you get in there and you got to do the work, it's all about the work, the lyrics. It's all about the part, humanism, and the feeling. And then once that work, that's going to go okay, and you can start polishing on how the look is going to be. You know what I mean, for that particular. Project, so it is kind
particularly
of
if you have a run,
kind of
and you can, when you're doing a run of a show, you can get more into it as well.
Oh yeah, that was the great part of acting. It's like, I only did 16 shows.
That's
total,
a lot, though.
So if we're doing something 16 times that long, two different places. Yeah, it was really good, because it's always different. That's the great thing about acting, is it's so specific. People don't realize, like, you can say, oh, we're going to do something on Tuesday night, and we're going to do it next Tuesday night, and it's not going to be the same Tuesday night.
No,
because all the stuff before the show, before that Tuesday night, is all going to be different, and you're going to feel different, even though
the audience is different.
Yeah, it's like the card game on Tuesday night. Oh, it's going to be the same as last week? No, it's not going to be the same as last week. It might have
of course.
Outcome, but you're going to feel different. There's going to be nuances. It's going to be completely different. So that's what's so fun about it.
I didn't think of this until just now, and it might be a rude question, but I don't think I could be rude with you. But you must have been offered gay porn. That you're at the time of your peak physically, notoriety, and you also are doing whatever it takes to get by. What kept you from doing gay porn?
It just wasn't my thing. You know what I mean?
Because you must have been offered.
Yeah, I was offered, but it wasn't my thing. I can't explain it. Like, being a model and a dancer already, and then I think because I was successful already.
That it would be almost going down?
No, it's just kind of like I just felt like I could go I could go dig up someone's yard. I can clean someone's house. I could, do anything, like help someone
Mm,
move. I don't have to. It's just something like not in my line of sights. You know what I
right.
mean? Even though as wild as I am on the side
Yeah, sure.
and escorting past and whatever, but that was more like I can say, oh, it's like just like having sex, and it's just like dating. What's the
Right.
difference?
Of course.
The difference? They're the
Right.
same
Nothing.
people. They're the same people. You know what I mean? Like the same dating pool are going to be the same people who are going to used to pay me for being an escort. It's the same people. So porn was just something I love to watch it.
Yeah. And we know a lot of porn stars.
Oh yeah, I think
We have dated them.
it's a great thing, but it just was never for me.
If you have 3 siblings?
I have 4 siblings.
4. Okay. And they must have seen where your career has gone. What do they think? Because you're so removed from who you were. Or are you? Maybe you're not.
I don't really, it's not like we ever talk about it because they always
Hmm.
look at me like I'm just Paul.
Really? So, like, you're still this boy.
Yeah, they know me as Paul. They know me as their brother. They know, yeah, he dances. Yeah, he sings. Yeah, he's had some success. Yeah, but they're so busy now doing their own lives. I've never had that kind of like family that other people have where like they're cheerleaders or anything. Like I've
Hmm.
never had that. So it's just, I guess it's from being from a big family and everyone's got something else to do. So yeah, I've never had any of that kind of stuff. I'm just one of the kids.
Yeah. If you could, I mean, it's so silly. If you could go back, was there something that you would have done differently?
Um, yeah, there's a couple things that I go, oh, I should have done that. And I've already like worked through all of that and been like, oh, I've already processed it and been like, I was very young.
Hmm.
I didn't know anything. There's something called first fame and it kills people.
Mm,
And it kills child stars. It kills people
sure.
who just win the lottery, and it's this thing that happens. And all these like people come out of the woodwork. You're just not prepared for it. It's like jumping out of a parachute, and you don't jumping out of a plane without a parachute. You just
Mm,
don't know how to land.
right.
It's weird, and then all these people, So yeah, when I look back and go, oh, I wonder what my life would have been like if I did this instead of this. Would it still turn out the same? Or maybe I wouldn't have gone to LA, or maybe I wouldn't have, I think about those things.
Like, was there a part of you when you went to New York and you studied dance? If you had stayed on the dance path, what would your life have been? Did you have a goal at that point? Like,
Well,
you
I
wanted
knew
to
it.
be a showman?
Well, at that point, I knew because I came from the discos, so a lot of these
Mm,
other people who I'm taking dance class with just didn't have the disco. I was a gay club kid, in the
right.
early
And
80s.
that was the club kid time.
Yeah, and I was a 16-year-old gay kid who hung out in gay clubs.
Yeah,
So when
well,
I was going to take dance class with the other 20-year-olds, they were just coming out of, high school or college and going taking dance class down the city. Meanwhile, I'm like so entrenched in the New York club scene already. So for me, it was kind of like from the clubs. So I think that's where like I probably would have been a club promoter, club singer, some
mm,
sort of performer like that anyway. Um, and then I was a dancer model, so I would have modeled more if I
hmm.
had. There are other countries that I didn't explore modeling that I wanted to go to. I could have went to Johannesburg. I could have went to
Oh,
Germany just to model, just to try it.
right.
But I never did because I didn't have to because I was working already. In New York City at the time. So. But then I tried to be a club promoter once, and it was a crazy night in Pensacola, Florida. And then I also knew if I stayed in that world, it had a lot to do with sobriety. If I
Hmm.
stayed in the club world, I would have been dead for sure.
And by the way, here's a picture of you in Pensacola.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know if you were a club promoter or not, but I'd buy whatever you were promoting. I'll tell you that
I
right
was
now.
actually doing a show at a club called The Office there in Pensacola,
So
Florida.
are you able to like look at this picture and tell me where it is?
Yeah, I know exactly where I'm
Okay. Well, then let's play a little game. This is on the cover of a magazine. What magazine's that? Come
Private
on, Paul.
Eyes.
It is private. Yep, it is.
Private Lives. Yeah,
Private Lives. Okay.
that's funny.
You know what's interesting is you've had two songs back to back. One, one is I Need a Vacation.
Mm.
Well, you know what the other one is, obviously. I Need a Hit.
Yeah.
How did those two come about?
Well, I wrote I Need a Vacation, and I recorded it in New Jersey when I was spending some time in New Jersey with Giuseppe D, that
Oh.
writer, producer, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really cool. And then I come back years later, and then my manager at the time was like, "Oh, there's this song," and I'm like, "Oh, it's not really in my key," and I hate singing songs that's not in my key. And I was like, "Oh, I could do it, but it's not really, But I was like, oh, it was what was really going on. The DJ Dan DeLeon at the time was a big DJ at the Abbey, and I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
sure, I'll work with him. I liked him, so it was just kind of like, so I just did that. It was more like an underground record, like an underground club record.
Mm-hmm. A club song, right?
The opposite of Rainbow. Rainbow's pop, 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 dance,
Right.
pop, radio, club.
Yeah, there's more electronica dance.
Yeah, it's more electronic dance. So then I was just, I wasn't crazy about the title because I just did I Need a Vacation, but I was just one of those things where I was like, put my hands up and be like, okay.
Hey, what city is this?
Oh my God. Is it in Florida somewhere?
It is in Florida. It's one of those Florida dates.
St. Petersburg? Or...
No, it's Jacksonville.
Oh, Jackson.
Oh, Paul, you're letting me down. Let's just see if there's anything. Oh, what I love about you did a lot of shots with Greg Gorman,
Yeah.
and you're in one of his books.
I don't know if I'm in one of his books.
Oh, really?
No, I'm not. I'm in one of Cal's books and Ken Hack's books. Yeah, I'm not in one of Greg's books.
Well, fuck him then. I'm not even asking the question.
I might be in the future, though.
Well, all right. Paul, where's this?
That was a cover of HIV Plus in 2004, and that was taken in the Abbey.
It was. And do you still feel like LA is home? Because I know now you do spend a lot of time in Palm Springs too.
I spent a lot of time in the desert,
Yeah.
but in Southern California, I lived in West Hollywood so long, so everything's so close by. So
Mhm.
I just love the desert because it's energy and
Right.
the sky and the mountain, and it's just I like to go there as much as possible. So I like both.
Mhm. What do you want to do this summer? I mean, I'm guessing that you would like to do some of the gay pride festivals with Rainbow.
Yeah, I mean, I
It's
recorded.
been a
Rainbow.
few years.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind, performing Rainbow 3 or 4 times for some gay prides this year. That would be perfect for me. I'm not like, I'm not like that kind of person that likes to tour a lot because it's too grueling,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
physically grueling. I got really sick when I was in Australia, and it was really bad because it was like the Australian flu was going on. It was like winter there. And one of the other singers had to drop out of the show. So I don't like to tour like that. So I like to tour in my specific way.
Mhm.
So if it comes about, I would love to sing Rainbow for a gay pride 3 or 4 times this year. Sure. If it's not going to kill me. Like 6 a.m. flights and
Yeah, I know. No, we've done them.
nightclub,
Yeah,
no
2
sleep,
prides on a weekend. Yeah, I
nightclub,
know.
no sleep. It's like, I
Yeah.
can't do that anymore. I
Yeah,
don't want to
I
do
know.
that anymore.
No, but we did it.
Oh
And
yeah,
that's the
we did
thing.
it.
We did it and we're still here. So before I let you go, let's talk about My House. Do you look as fondly on the My House video as I do?
I do. It was my first big video that I did, and I did it at the Charlie Chaplin stage here
Oh,
in
I didn't know that.
Hollywood. Yes, and it was a really big to do. A lot of dancers. So yeah, I working with Shep Pettibone was just magical, and he was one of my mentors. So I got to
Hmm.
watch him a lot working, and I kind of take a lot of what I watched from him and that song with me today on things I learned just watching him, how he produces a song and what he does, and so yeah, that time is very. I have fond memories of that time.
And you know it did hit at the point that clubs we had video clubs. That was a big deal at that point, and it was everywhere. I mean, especially in the gay clubs. I assume in the straight clubs as well, but firsthand I can tell you people would always ask for it.
Yeah, I toured a lot after for it to be my like second major hit after Boom Boom.
How many years between the two?
Well, it was 87 and then 91, so that's
All
four
right,
years.
so 4 years. Wow.
4 or 5 years because it was, it takes a while to kind of go around to the regions, a
Hmm.
song. But yeah, it was popular. It was number 12 on the Billboard dance charts, My House. And yeah, I got to tour a lot tour again from that song. So that was a good thing. Yeah.
Was the experience with Sire? I mean, obviously it could have been better, but was it a good experience while it lasted?
It was a really good experience. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about the business. I learned a lot about, when life is different when you're with a big label and a lot of major artists.
Hmm.
Um, there's a pecking order. And
Are you
there's
treated better or are you treated like just and the rest?
No, it's kind of like if you have another artist there, first of all, people have to like you, but first of all, you have to sell a certain amount of units. And
Clearly.
then everyone likes you more because if you work for a company and this record sells a million or two, and then the next artist is coming out with another song, they want it to sell a million or two or five
Right.
million or whatever, so they're going to give that artist priority,
Mm.
during that quarter. So I didn't know stuff like that when I was in the middle of it. I was going, oh, this is how it works. And then how my, releasing of singles would kind of maneuver around because of all the other artists that were on the label that they had to maneuver around. So I was just kind of like, oh,
Oh, so it's like jockeying for space.
yeah, in a way, and it was up to them. It was up to
Mm.
them what they wanted. Those, it's up to the president of the record companies and the people who promoted the records, and it's up to sales, and it's up to DJs at the time, and it's up to some years. And I was surprised they let some people go after selling more than a million copies. I'm like, well, why did they let that person go? And then I find out later, I'm like, oh, maybe they were struggling with some sort of drug problem or something that I didn't know. And I was like, oh, I'm like,
And
why
this
would
was around the time, wasn't Sire bought by Warner Brothers? Was that what it was
yeah,
at that
Sire had been
time?
bought by Warner Brothers, so it was like a Warner Electric Atlantic kind of thing. And there was also the International, which was WIA International, which I was a part of, and I was very happy to be a part of that. I got to go to Asia, 6 countries in Southeast Asia, and tour there. So that
Wow.
was great. So I mean, it was a great experience. There is just even like some of the songwriters, there's competition, there's competitions
Really?
of songwriters I was working with. There's competitions that they want their own albums. They
Oh.
never got their own albums. I've just seen a lot of stuff in the inner workings where I was just kind of like, wow, I didn't know this stuff went on, and also like, I didn't have on my point of, I write more now than I didn't write a lot back then. I wrote very little
Hmm.
back then. So I think as an artist, it kind of, was my detriment that I didn't have enough of material of my own. And that was,
Because that is the only people who make money on a record is the
well, it's
writers.
also, and also it wasn't just me that was going through that. I realized people who wrote, everyone was searching for their next hit.
Well, sure, of
It was like
course.
an Easter egg hunt, and they wanted that next hit. That's why even today there's a lot of artists that they write for each other, and Britney doesn't do this song, but Rihanna has a hit with it. So and so doesn't do this song, but Britney had a hit with it. It's like there's all this like stuff that goes on that I'm like, wow, I never knew. So that was like my first entrenched experience on how all that stuff worked. But I was
Uh,
very grateful for the time there.
One of my favorite things is this because this picture, it says also available on cassette. Do you remember cassette? I have a tattoo with cassette somewhere.
Yeah, that was when they still, I think, were doing cassettes. Cassettes started to be on their way out,
Oh,
and
really?
CDs were a big thing. So you're kind of
Hmm.
like, going to be on CD, yes, but it's going to be on cassette too, because cassettes are still, especially in other countries at the time. I think in Asia, cassettes were still really big, in the 1990. You know what I mean? They haven't.
And in people's cars.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. That's true.
Did you get to control your image? Like we look at this image for Fruit
Yeah,
Machine. Was
yeah.
that you or were you styled? Who
This was
decided
me.
that's the look?
This was me. I had
It's a
words with.
great look.
Yeah, this was totally me being gay. Me. I had been, staying temporarily with a photographer, Sean Cahill, who used to do all the Roxy ads, and
Oh,
I would
wow.
shoot. And the other one with me on the ottoman was also Sean Cahill.
Hmm.
So I was like, let's shoot. It was great to live with a photographer. It's a great thing because you get to like 2 o'clock in the morning. Let's go in the hallway and shoot some pictures. You know what I mean? We
Oh,
used to get stoned,
wow.
let's go in the hallway and shoot some pictures. Like, so that was me being very leather, but that's kind of very racy. They never
Yeah,
really.
I was wondering for a major label, were they like, oh, it's too gay or too
It's
raunchy
too
or
gay. I was always too gay. Like uh, yeah. So that was kind of like for the nightclubs. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like for the gay. I would still shoot for the gay nightclubs for me. You know what I mean? But around that time, that whole gay thing was a big, because even Madonna at the time had that like you know uh, leather cap, and she was had the
Yeah, the
cigarette hanging out of
erotica
her mouth,
time,
and it,
right? Sure.
like it was still kind of like gay bar. Gay bar was like a little style too back then. Leather.
Ah.
I'm vegan now, but
Oh, anyway, all right. Well, look, we've been talking forever. I just want to show the teaser for Rainbow one more time. So let's just show it. It's a little gay too.
yeah, the video is being edited right now. It should probably be out. We're hoping
I
for
can't.
Wednesday.
I can't wait till it's out, Paul. I, I mean, you and I never have trouble talking. So we could do a whole series of these. But I want to thank you because I know a lot of this stuff is, personal. And it's one thing to talk about it for print, it's another thing for people to actually hear you tell your story.
Yeah, and it's also great because, like, when I look back at some interviews and I'm like, I didn't say that. And I'm like,
Right.
oh, and also I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. I should have said this. So it's kind of like I learned from that too,
Mhm.
going, let me like make sure I say what I want to say. And, so it's good for both of us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna wrap up, but if you stick around for a second, I'll talk to you afterwards. But
Okay.
Paul, I just love you and I wish you so much luck and success with Rainbow. And I hope you and I are doing Pride festivals this summer. Wouldn't that be fun?
That would be
We'll
great.
come back to LA.
Bye.
LA
Thank you.
hasn't. All right. I will talk to you in a minute. Everybody.